Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Week 6. We're going to be covering chapters 11 and 12. Chapter 11 is near and dear to my heart because it's about de escalation and communication. And communication, I learned very early on, actually, before my law enforcement career in my 10 years of sales. And the people that were my mentors were people like Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Dale Carnegie. They were all experts at communication. And in sales, there's a lot of technique that you learn in it that carries you through a conversation and actually teaches you almost how to control a conversation in a way. It's very complex, actually, when you start looking at all the intricacies. So, when I went into law enforcement, we learned a different kind of communication. We learned how to de escalate. So, a lot of that training that I learned in sales carried over and assisted me in my career in law enforcement. So when I came up with the concept for peace, it was kind of interesting because I had gone through several incidences early in my career where I learned that I actually had pretty decent skills in communication and being able to calm people. And really, one of the most valuable skills that I had gained was active listening, which was very important, especially when you go into a scene where someone's either had a crime committed against them and they were victimized in some way, or they were the criminal committing the crime, and you had to elicit some information out of them. So early on in my career, I made a traffic stop on a guy who was driving aggressively. I got him out of the car and we began to have a conversation. And this is really where I began to understand better how communication works in hostile situations. And this person, I could tell, had some underlying issues. He wasn't just annoyed that he was stopped by me. He was dealing with some other things. And I took the time to listen to him, and I think he really appreciated that. By the end of the traffic stop, we had come to an understanding that I was able to uh, give him some positive feedback and kind of help him make some better decisions. At the time, I was afraid that he would possibly um, not necessarily hurt himself, but he wasn't feeling very confident, or he was definitely in a poor emotional state. So when the conversation ended, I think he was encouraged to find some help, and I learned that through a process and through my experiences in sales and in conflict resolution that I could really reach out and help people. So with peace, you're going to go into the conversation with no preconceived notions, and you're also going to go into the conversation with no expectations, especially negative expectations. So with the word peace, you're going to go into it with a nice mindset. So P is pause. So you want to slow yourself first. So the resolution and peace method. So this method works together because personal safety is one tool. Sometimes communication helps reduce pressure. Sometimes communication stops helping, and the priority becomes distance, movement, or escape. And the point is not to make you feel paranoid or aggressive. The point is to help you recognize what the moment requires. So, chapter 11 is about using communication strategically. What it doesn't do is teach you to become endlessly nice or charming or calming everyone down. The distinction is important because for many of you, you have been conditioned to think that conflict resolution means staying polite or patient or agreeable, even when something is crossing the line. Conflict resolution is not compliance. And peace It's a safety tool. The purpose is reduce pressure, create options, buy you time, and preserve control, and move the situation in a safer direction for both of you, the person you're speaking with and yourself. And sometimes that means continuing the conversation, but sometimes it means ending the conversation and just moving away, disengaging. So the chapter makes it clear when it explains that peace helps women recognize when words are helping and when words are keeping them trapped. So it's important to be aware that communication is not the same as accommodation. So you can be calm without being compliant. You can lower the emotional temperature without giving up your boundary. And you can acknowledge someone's frustration without accepting responsibility for fixing it. So, conflict resolution is often misunderstood as staying nice until the other person calms down. That can become dangerous if, say, a woman keeps talking, explaining, apologizing, or softening while the other person keeps pressing. And you need to remember that it's not your responsibility to make the other person feel comfortable at the expense of your safety. And it's about using communication as long as communication is helping create safety. So, peace gives structure under pressure, and peace stands for pause, empathize, acknowledge, clarify, and engage. The value of the method is that it gives women something simple to remember when stress narrows thought. Under pressure, people often go silent, over explain, apologize, or create too quickly. So, peace helps slow the moment down enough to make language useful again. So, the chapter makes it clear that peace is not about making you more agreeable, it's about making you more effective in your communication. It helps you stay grounded, communicate with intention, and recognize the continued conversation is not longer serving your safety. Pause means slow yourself before you respond. And pause is not freezing, it's not hesitation, it's the deliberate act of slowing the internal reaction before words outrun judgment. This matters because pressure makes people speak too quickly, and many women feel the need to immediately smooth over tension, answer the question, explain themselves, or reduce discomfort. And pause gives them the moment to ask, what is the real purpose of what I'm about to say? Pause gives you one moment of control before the other person's urgency becomes your pace. The next letter is empathize, and that does not mean surrender. Empathy is often misunderstood. In peace, empathy does not mean agreement, it does not mean emotional caretaking, and it doesn't mean taking responsibility for someone else's feelings. It means recognizing what the other person may be feeling well enough to avoid making the situation unnecessarily worse. A woman might say, I can see you're frustrated, or I understand this is upsetting. That can reduce friction without giving away the boundary. The important distinction is your objective is not to make that other person feel better. Your objective is to make the situation safer. So, empathy can lower the temperature without handling over the thermostat. Acknowledgement confirms that the message has been heard. It does not mean agreement, and it does not mean you will comply. This matters because some people keep repeating themselves because they think persistence will eventually create surrender. Acknowledgement lets the person, you, say, I heard you, without continuing to debate. Some examples may be, I understand you want to talk. I heard what you said. I know this wasn't what you wanted. Or you understand what the message that other person is trying to convey to you. Acknowledgement tells the person, I heard you, without saying, you get to keep me here. The next letter is clarify. Clarify is where the boundary becomes clear. Clarify is often the turning point. This is where the woman states the line, the reality, or the next step in direct language. Some examples of that are going to be, I'm leaving now. I'm not going with you. I'm not discussing this further. You need to step back. This conversation is over. Or I said no. These are very direct, and they don't leave any room for discovery, further discovery, or any room for miscommunication. And this is where my sales training comes in. In sales, the salesperson will try and overcome your objections. So, in the wrong place with the wrong person, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to try and overcome your objections. So with clarity, clarity does not create the problem. Clarity reveals whether the other person is willing to respect the line and your boundaries. Chapter 12 is the fight you didn't choose. So the main point here is force is for escape. So chapter 12 should focus on one main idea, and that is the goal is not to win the fight. The goal is to break contact, create movement, and escape. And in chapter 12, it does cover a lot of ground. So it talks about your position, mobility, your escape, vulnerable targets, your voice, a second location, available objects, training. Those are all important. But what we want to really convey in this chapter, the clean point is this. If the moment becomes physical, fighting is not about pride, punishment, or providing toughness. It's about survival. The chapter says the goal is to break contact and stay alive. And so this chapter doesn't make fighting the center of your safety. Prepare to protect is still centered on awareness, early recognition, boundaries, decision making, and preserving advantage before the moment collapses. So, chapter 12 does not replace those early tools. It exists because sometimes those tools are not enough. Sometimes a person ignores boundaries and chooses force. Fighting is not the center of a woman's safety. So, when the situation turns physical, the goals change. Before physical contact, the goal may be communication, distance, boundary setting, or decision making. Once someone physically commits to controlling, trapping, or harming you, the goal becomes survival. And that shift matters. For women, it's no longer trying to preserve the social frame. This is no longer trying to avoid awkwardness. This no longer is about trying to make the interaction smoother. You now need to try and breathe, move, disrupt, and escape. Once the moment turns physical, your job is not to protect the interaction anymore. Your job is to protect yourself. So one of the teaching points is the survival priorities simplify the moment. So the chapter gives a simple way to think under pressure, and that's air, position, mobility, and escape. These are not techniques, they are priorities. Air means, can you breathe, make sound, and stay conscious? Position means, are you standing, pinned, falling, trapped in a vehicle, against a wall, or being dragged? Mobility means, can you move, create movement, disrupt the movement, get your body back into action? Escape means, where's the gap? Where's the door? The people, the safer location. When the moment becomes chaotic, don't search for the perfect technique. Search for the next survival priority. And another teaching point is, remember, disruption is functional, not emotional. So the goal is not to fight fair. The goal is not to trade moves. The goal is to disrupt the parts of the body that allow the attacker to keep control over you. This isn't a book that trains technique. This part of the book is just making you aware. Next, second locations are dangerous. This is one of the most important practical ideas in the chapter. If someone is trying to move you to a vehicle, stairwell, hidden room, bedroom, back area, or more isolated location, resistance often belongs there. The current location may be bad. The next one may be worse. This does not mean every situation is identical. It means women should understand that being moved by force is a major warning sign and may require immediate commitment if resistance is possible. If someone is trying to move you somewhere more private, the danger is not only what is happening now, it is what becomes possible once you are moved. Escape must continue until you're truly safe. A common mistake is stopping too early. If the attacker lets go, stumbles, backs up, or releases pressure for a second, the movement may not be over. That may be the window for your opportunity to leave. So this chapter emphasizes that if escape opens, take full advantage of it. Move to people, move to light, move to barriers, create distance, lock doors, contact staff for security or law enforcement. Do not stay near the scene trying to process while still exposed. Do what you need to do to escape until you are completely safe. When the gap opens, take the gap. Do not treat a pause in danger as the end of danger. So, quick recap on the two chapters. And the two chapters were really meant to work together. So, chapter 11 gives women communication structure through peace, and it helps them to stay calm, set boundaries, and recognize when words are still helping, you can stay engaged. But when the words on communication stops working, you need to disengage. Then, chapter 12 explains what force is for when words fail and the situation then turns physical. So I hope you got something out of the two chapters. I have some questions in the video. If you wouldn't mind, the comments will be open on a video. Just send me a quick response on what you thought of the information in 11 and 12, and then we can discuss them further when we all meet on the Zoom call that I'm going to be scheduling soon. And this will conclude this week, week 6. I look forward to seeing you all again on week 7, and I hope you are enjoying the book. Thank you.